Discussing issues important to your life and faith. Spiritual insight, practical wisdom. Join us as we transform the world one woman at a time. Women of Grace, for such a time as this. Now, here's your host, Johnnette Williams.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Women of Grace Live. I am Johnnette Williams, absolutely delighted and happy to join you today. What a pleasure it is to be with you as we spend our time having holy conversation, talking about living the abundant life of our Lord Jesus Christ and how to share that abundant life with others. We're always so very eager to hear from you here. We certainly are. It's Wednesday. You know what that means. It's Wacky Wednesday. Sue Brinkman is in the house, and we're going to be talking about all kinds of strange things that we see going on in the world today. We welcome you to call with your questions or your comments or your insights or your experiences with regard to trying to live that abundant life of our Lord Jesus Christ in our environment and world today. 833-288-3986. That's 833-288 EWTN. That is the way that you can join us live here on Women of Grace Live. We do love having that holy conversation with you. You can also use the chat feature out there at EWTN Radio's YouTube channel and Facebook page. Simply go on out there and put your name and how it is that you're with us and put your question or comment in there. Jeff Burson, who is our producer, lovely person, will retrieve it and he'll get it up on the board and we'll be able to address it. Now, as you know, Matt Gubensky is on vacation. Lucky him. We hope he's having a blessed time and an enjoyable time and a relaxing time. But that simply means that he is not answering our phones today. So we have Rich Jesse. Rich Jesse is back with us, answering those phones and helping us to talk with you. So when you call in, give Rich a big old howdy hey. We love the great team that we have here at EWTN. And I'll tell you what, I love the great team that we have at Women of Grace, and I want to share with you some of the things that are coming up. The fall of the year is always a busy time. You know, it's always a time when parishes kick into gear a little bit. You know, people are back from vacation, the children are in school, you know, life begins to resume a somewhat normal pace. And it's a big time for us at Women of Grace as well, because we offer all kinds of opportunities for you to enter into a deeper understanding and appreciation of who you are as a daughter of the Most High God. We want to affirm you in your gift of authentic femininity, and we want you to see how it is that you can aid humanity in not falling. That is the call, that is the gift of women at this moment in the history of man. We know that because Holy Mother Church tells us so. So we've got a big job to do, and we at Women of Grace want to help you to do that, but we want to help you enter into an ever-deepening relationship with God. We want to help you to enter into a deepening spiritual life, a deeper prayer life, because it affects everything. What do I want to say? It's pervasive. It affects marriages. It affects relationships with children. It affects relationships with your relatives. It affects relationships within your parish community and in your geographic community as well. It affects everything. And once we have that relationship with our Lord, we find such tremendous peace inside, and we find such tremendous joy inside. And we find the capacity to embrace all of the circumstances and situations that we're going to experience in this broken and fallen world, though a redeemed world, nonetheless a broken and fallen world, where we experience, you know, the residual effects of our own personal sins and the effects of others against us. So we want to help you to live that abundant life more fully as a daughter of the Most High God. We want to help you to enter into this beautiful understanding of just how precious is this gift of our femininity, and why it is such a special gift, and how it is that God wants to use it in our day and time, which is one of the reasons why I think it's under such attack. The evil one hates woman. He certainly does. And everything that we see happening in our midst today, to me, is very anti-woman. So we want to try to help us to make our way through this time, but to make it our way through this time with knowledge of God, with relationship with God, with peace in our heart and joy in our soul. So I want to share with you about a couple of options that are coming up. I know that there are several in-person options that are going on around the country, probably very many of them. Some of them we're aware of. If you are leading a Women of Grace foundational study in your locale, please let us know about it so that we can put it up on our website and let women know. We're working on that page right now, and it's going to be coming up soon. But I do want to let you know that we have 3 online options for you. Oftentimes in your own geographic area, there isn't a study going on, and maybe you don't feel equipped to lead that study fresh out of the box. So we offer these online options for those that are in rural areas, or for individuals who feel as though they would like to experience it before they lead it, or for people who simply want to go through it that way because it's more convenient. We invite you to go to our website. It's number 1 in the slideshow. You're going to see it there. But let me just tell you about them. We have 2 9-week study options. 2 9-week study options. Our study can be taken in various lengths of time. 9 to 10 weeks is the preliminary. It's the fastest way through. A more, I think, a deeper dive would be our 17-week study, and then some people prefer to do it over the course of a school year. We have all of those, but we've got 2 9-week study options coming up for you this fall, and the first is going to be Tuesday evenings at 7 p.m., from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., and that is going to begin on September the 12th, and we have an informational session on August the 29th, which is coming up. The second option for a 9-week study is going to take place on Thursdays in the daytime, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. So we're giving you an evening option, and we're giving you a daytime option. That is going to begin on September the 14th, and that info study session is going to be on August 24th. I know I'm giving you a lot of dates. August 24th is tomorrow, though, so you might want to be aware of that. And that would be for the daytime study. And the evening study, once again, is the info session is on August 29th, and it's going to start 2 days earlier than the daytime study. It's going to start on the 12th. And then if you want to go through it in a slightly deeper way, giving you more time, you're going to cover the same material as you would in the 9-week, but over a longer period of time. Lots of women prefer that. We're going to have a 17-week study option, and that's going to begin September 6th. So that's coming up soon, and the info session is tonight. It's tonight, August the 23rd, and that info session will be this evening at 7 p.m. So I want for you to, take a notice of these out at our website, womenofgrace.com. It's all listed for you in that first slideshow. And I can tell you, this is a transforming study. It's not something that we say about it. It's something that has been said about it by just about every woman that has gone through it. So it does something. The Holy Spirit is active when we give fiat, and when we give fiat to this study, great things happen. So please do get out to our website. Join us for one of these. I'm hoping to have one of our regional coordinators on with us tomorrow to talk a little bit more about the study, but we're watching it happen. And I'm very pleased to tell you this too. We have the foundational study is going on in lots of different countries. One of the countries that I think is very significant is that it's going on in Ukraine. And we just had a communication from one of the ladies over there, telling us about what's going on there and wanting to know if we would like for her to share her experience, and we certainly would. So we're going to try to work that out. But all kinds of beautiful things are happening through this study in all parts of the world, including our own country. We want for you to join us. So get out to our website, womenofgrace.com. Take a look. Let's see what God wants to do in you and through you, and how it is that He wants to help you to understand just how beautiful you are in Him. We're coming right back after the break. 833-288-EWTN. Sue Brinkman's with us. It's a Wacky Wednesday. Stay tuned.
This is Doug Keck. I'll be talking with another important Catholic author on EWTN's Bookmark, Saturday afternoon, 4:30 Eastern on EWTN Radio.
EWTN has its own official YouTube channel with tens of thousands of videos covering just about every conceivable topic of interest to Catholics. And, best of all, it's free. Every day, EWTN adds new TV shows, live events, devotionals, homilies, and specials to its YouTube channel. Visit the EWTN YouTube channel today. EWTN, the Global Catholic Network.
This is Life Issues with Brad Mattis, president of Life Issues Institute.
Georgia has a heartbeat law requiring ultrasound to determine whether or not there's a heartbeat. So, staff at an abortion facility in Atlanta not only confirmed a heartbeat, but also found blood in her pelvic area. She was suffering an ectopic pregnancy, that is when the baby's growing outside the womb. They immediately called for an ambulance to get her emergency treatment because this condition can be fatal. Now, imagine if this young woman received the chemical abortion pills and was sent home. Or imagine if she received the pills by mail. Either way, she would have been on her own and likely mistook the ectopic pregnancy symptoms for those of a chemical abortion. Chemical abortion pill procedures are a ticking time bomb waiting to take the lives of unsuspecting women.
Like us on Facebook at Life Issues and stay informed, more informed than you've ever been.
Journey deeper in your understanding of the Eucharistic mystery and the Eucharistic story of God's love for us. Download the free ebook, The 12 Stations of the Most Holy Eucharist, at EWTN.com/Catholicism.
You're listening to EWTN Radio.
Well, you hear that music, it lets you know that it's a wacky Wednesday around here. And I want to tell you, it's already pretty wacky. Sue and I were wacky on that break, getting ready for this program today. I'll tell you what, it's a good thing to laugh, isn't it? It's really a good thing. Humor, where is it in Proverbs? It says something about, humor is a good medicine for the soul or something like that. But it really is. If you're having a hard day, just start laughing. It releases happy endorphins. And we're always happy to be with you. And we want to hear from you. Rich Jesse answering the phones today, in from Matthew Gubensky, who is on vacation. Jeff Burson collecting all of your questions out there at social media. 833-288-EWTN is the way that you can call us. It's a toll-free number for you right here in North America. That's 833-288-3986. We invite you to join us right here and call in with your questions. So, Sue, should we let them in on what we were talking about on our break?
The Yellow Submarine.
Yes.
The Beatles, and how you wanted Paul McCartney to come up, to drive up to your house and ask you to marry him when you were 14 years old. And I wanted George Harrison to drive up to my house and ask me to marry him when I was 14 years old. So I was a George fan.
And that's perfectly all right. I can tell you that, on my high school locker, this was the thing when we were freshmen. I think every girl in my class, most of them anyway, had a crush on one of the Beatles, and they had bubble gum. And you remember how they used to have the bubble gum in the packs for the boys with the baseball players and stuff in there, and they would trade cards and all that. Well, they had Beatle cards like that, and so we had the inside of our lockers plastered with Beatle pictures. And the religious sisters let us do it, which was kind of nice of them. I think they probably thought we were all corny.
Because, at the time they were like, "Oh, who are these evil men with their long hair and they're gyrating on the stage with their guitars and all this?" Remember that? But we just loved them. We would just swoon over them. They were just so fabulous.
Yeah, I even remember when they came on the Ed Sullivan Show, and I was swooning in front of the television, and my father was so upset. Oh my gosh, he was so upset. My mother said, "Let her alone, Bill. Let her alone, Bill. I swooned over Frank Sinatra." Anyway.
That's so funny.
Oh, glory be. I'll tell you, people, you never know what you're going to get on Wednesdays here around these parts.
That's true.
But you did say something. You said you thought George was so cool, and then he went off and did all these Hindu things, and you thought that was cool too. And here you are all these years later.
I know. God, he's such
pointing out all of the
humor.
dangers.
And exactly. And I used to also make the comment. I used to always say, "What do you think I am, a Carmelite?" And now look what I am, a Carmelite. This is what he does. This is what he does. He flips everything right on the time. See what you said about that? Well, I'll tell you what you're going to be.
You're going to be a Carmelite.
You are a Carmelite.
Actually, the fact that you even said that tells me that it was probably a seed in your heart at the time, because out of all of the religious orders, you could have said, "What am I, Franciscan?"
I would always say Carmelite. What do you think I am, a Carmelite? How about that?
Oh,
I never even thought
dear
about
Lord,
that.
have mercy on us.
Goodness.
Please have mercy on us. Well, listen, and I do want to say, last week, I just have to thank you, and I thanked my husband already. He sat in for me on Wacky Wednesday because Denise McCain, one of our regional coordinators and our mission outreach coordinator for Women of Grace was in town, and we drove up to Hansville. And we went to Mass up at the Shrine of the Most Blessed Sacrament and toured around there and spent a little money and, what you do at the castle there at the bookstore. But you two seem to have a really good time. So I'm very grateful for the two of you to have done that so that I could be with Denise up there.
It was fun. And Jack passed the wacky test right away.
Yeah, he did. You were both very wacky.
He did a great job with that. And it was just a good show. It was an informative show. We had a lot of callers.
Did.
The whole board was just about lit up in last week's show. So, it was good. We had fun together.
It was
a fun
good.
show.
Well, we're hoping for lots of calls today. And to that end, we want to give you this toll-free number again. It's 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. And Sue, you've got a couple of topics to talk about today, and two of them, isn't it interesting how in the New Age they just keep recasting things?
Yes.
It's the same old, but they just put it into a different package, and they call it a different thing, but underneath it all, it's all the same. And we're going to be talking about two of those kinds of things today.
Yes. And the one of them, I always give them a chance. Maybe over the years, something has changed. And the one that came up recently, and it has been coming up recently, and I'm seeing a lot of new articles about it being written out in different publications, is about grounding and earthing. And that's where it's this whole idea that you walk around on the earth with bare feet, and that there's this positive shift in the electrical state of the body, and when the earth transfers its electrons into your body through your bare feet, and that there's going to be a positive shift in the whole electrical state of the body, and it's going to restore all kinds of self-healing and self-regulating mechanisms. Now, I first read about earthing and grounding back in 2013. So I thought, okay, you keep an open mind about this stuff. Maybe science is going to find something out. In the course, that was 10 years ago. So I said, okay, let me see what's out there. And guess what? Nothing's changed. It's still considered pseudoscience. There's a lot more studies have been done with it. However, the whole notion that early man, in their natural state, primitive man, that they were more connected to the earth by walking barefoot than we are, because we're inside buildings and we walk on rubber-soled shoes, and that isolates us from the earth, and it causes us to be out of electrical homeostasis. Okay, but modern science says that's not true. It actually isn't true at all. There is no transfer of electrons. Only in the eyes of those people who believe in grounding. But in the eyes of serious science, no. Those are totally erroneous claims. There's no proof of that at all. And it lacks all scientific merit. Now, here's the thing. The person who came up with this, and this is one of the ways that when people are out there looking for misinformation and disinformation online, this is how you protect yourself from it. Look at the source. And in this case, it's a man named Clint Ober. He's the author of a book called Earthing, the Most Important Health Discovery Ever, ? Who's also a contributor to Gwyneth Paltrow's controversial Goop blog. Okay, so there's a little red flag right there. But I kept reading about him, and he learned about grounding when he was installing cable TV systems in the early 1960s. And this eventually morphed into him developing one of the first cable modems and increased awareness of the need for proper grounding in that. And then he had a health crisis, and it put him on a personal journey to discover a higher purpose in life. And it was during those travels that he noticed people wearing rubber-soled shoes, and he thought to himself, I wonder if that's causing the problems. Maybe they should be walking barefoot. So he did a personal experiment in which he discovered that grounding, which is walking barefoot, reduced his pain and improved his sleep. So then he developed this working hypothesis. Grounding the human body to the earth normalizes the functioning of all the body's systems. That's a pretty big statement there, right? Normalizes all the body's systems. And the body utilizes the earth's electrical potential and free electrons to maintain its internal electrical stability, normalizing all of its self-healing systems. But guess what? It's a hypothesis that was developed by who? A person who was a cable TV systems installer. So that's how you know when you investigate the source. Right then and there, people like me who do this kind of research would stop and say, right then, okay, there's a problem here. First of all, okay, maybe he doesn't understand electricity and the importance of grounding of electricity, but what does he know about how that applies to the human body? Is he a biologist? I mean, what does he have? What are his credentials for any of this stuff and this working hypothesis? And the reason why people need to do this and to check into things like this is because they're charging you huge sums of money for some of this stuff. An earthing yoga mat, $119. Who's going to pay $100 for an exercise mat? Earthing sleep systems, they just start at $369. This is where, you have different sheets and pillowcases, $60. Earthing product tester kits and ground rods are in the $30 range and different things. And what do? They do nothing. They do nothing. The whole assertion there is just off. The whole assertion is just wrong. And one of the doctors that was interviewed in an article about it, Dr. Mubashir Rahim, he said, the planet isn't a giant electric battery, nor are living things. In this regard, the idea that there are loose electrons lying in wait on the bare earth in some special way to connect with you and heal you is rather nonsensical. So it's just false, but people are out there and they buy into it. And I'll tell you what, it's not their fault. These websites are beautifully done, state of the art, and they have all this scientific sounding woo on them that they don't know any different from it. And I use the SIFT, SIFT module sort of to acquire what is true and what isn't. The first thing I do is I stop. Don't go by what you're seeing just on that one site. Move on from there. See what else you can find. Go right to the source. That's the second thing I do. I go right to that source. Then find other reports about it. Don't just read that one. Go out and look to see what other people have written about it. And then last, trace their claims, which is easy to do. If this one says, grounding can connect you to the earth, and then put after that scam in Google, and it'll come up with any controversial statement that might be out there. The internet is a wonderful tool if you know how to use it, and you can trace all of that stuff. And then, of course, what we add is, what does the Catholic Church teach about certain things like this? Now, what does the Church teach about earthing and grounding? Well, this is a pseudoscience. So if you want to walk around outside because it kind of feels good at the end of the day to take your shoes off and walk around on the ground, that's if you don't step on bees or anything. But you can't do that for anything life-threatening or contagious and say, I'm just going to go out and get grounded and that's going to heal me of the flu or something that's contagious, or my cancer is going to go in remission from walking around on the ground. Yeah. We are morally obligated to use reasonable and proven means for that sort of thing. That's what the Church teaches in there. So this is how you can protect yourself from this kind of disinformation and misinformation. It's really not that hard to do.
Yeah, I was thinking as you were talking, people who live in colder climes would not fare well then, because in the wintertime, you can't walk around with no shoes on. You're going to get frostbite. So it doesn't make sense just from the capacity to be able to initiate that kind of a practice on a full-time basis. Second of all, I do think that there is something about the natural shape of the foot. And oftentimes, if we do have some difficulties with our back and things like that, it's because of the shoes we're wearing. So there are many shoe products that help to correct that problem. And there are some shoe companies that really specialize in footwear that takes the shape of your foot. I'm thinking of Birkenstocks, for example. They're very comfortable, and they help to imitate the way the foot would naturally receive, the pressure that it experiences on the earth. So that might be there is something there with that, I think, but not that you're collecting these electrons from the earth. It's going to affect your body. It has nothing to do with that. It really has more to do with the mechanics of your body. How does your body mechanically works and functions, So yeah, well, I'm glad that you shared that. So if anybody, comes up to you and starts talking about these kinds of things, you've got a lot of information. And I especially like your acronym because I'm crazy about acronyms. SIFT. So it's stop. And I guess the I, you say, follow the sources. That would be investigate.
Investigate. F is find other coverage. F, and then T is trace their claims.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. And then I would put SIFT plus C because I like the last thing you mentioned. What does the church say about it, right?
Yes. What does the church say?
That's always very important to check out because, a lot of these things that we think are benign, but they're not benign. And even we would look at this and say, well, the church hasn't written anything about grounding. But that isn't what you necessarily look at. You look at the fact that this is a pseudoscience. What does the church say about pseudoscience, right? So sometimes it takes just a little bit of calibration in the mind to figure out, well, how should I go about this process of discovery? And then you come to it and you discover it. So, well, very good. Well, so that was really good. Now you've got another one, and I think we might have enough time to at least start this conversation. And we've got Francesca with us. We want to go to her too when we come back from the break. So, Francesca, I'm going to ask you to hold, and we are looking forward to hearing from you. 833-288 EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. That's 833-288 EWTN or EWTN Radio's YouTube channel and Facebook page. Use the chat feature there. We'll get your question up on the board. Michael P. has a question for us out there on YouTube. You can join him or you can join Francesca or you can join them both. 833-288 EWTN, EWTN Radio's YouTube channel and Facebook page. So manifesting. Tell us about manifesting.
Yeah, manifesting is all the rage these days. And it's about how to use your mind to will your goals into existence. By using tools such as meditation and guided visualization and vision boards and other rituals, and that you can make these big things happen for you by thinking about them and just visualizing them in your mind. And I mean, it's okay to visualize something, a goal that you have, and like I'm sure a lot of people in sports, they're going to visualize, that winning score in the game and help to keep themselves motivated. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But manifesting takes it a step further. Manifesting is telling you that you're doing that, you're visualizing that is actually what's going to make it happen. Mm-hmm. And that's now where you're starting to get into the law of attraction stuff, where they're attributing to the mind a power that it just does not have. And they're making the mind into a kind of God, that as long as you think the right way, you're going to make all these right things happen for you. So that's the problem with vision. And people are getting into these vision boards, where they put together all these pictures from magazines and stuff about their goal, and they look at it every day and they focus on it because they think it's going to make these dreams of theirs come true. Now, if it's motivating you to work toward that dream, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But you're visualizing that and you're hoping for those things isn't what's going to make it come true. That's not what's going to make it true. My thing with dreams, I give them to my Father in heaven. And I tell him, I have a dream for this. I would really like to have this. I remember that when I didn't have a house. I lived in an apartment, and I would see people sitting on their porch, and I didn't have that. I lived in a basement apartment. I had nowhere to sit outside. And I said, Father, I'd really love to have a place to live where I would have a porch one day. But I'm going to give that dream to you because I don't know if I'll ever get there. And I now live in a house that has 2 porches, one on the front and one on the back.
Because God cannot be outdone in generosity.
Yeah, give him your dreams. He doubles them. He doubles them for you.
That's exactly right. Well, that's wonderful. So more to come on the other side of our break. Phone lines are lighting up. We're happy about that. 833-288 EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. That is the way that you can join us right here on Women of Grace Live, or use EWTN Radio's YouTube channel and Facebook page as Michael has. We're looking forward to hearing from you either way. And when we come back, more with Sue Brinkman. It is a Wacky Wednesday right here on Women of Grace Live. Stay with us.
EWTN takes you to Poland for Holy Mass from the Shrine of Our Lady of Czestochowa, Saturday at 5 a.m. and again at 11 a.m. Eastern on EWTN TV.
This is a Messy Family Minute from Mike and Alicia Hernan. We want to encourage you to become a storyteller in your family. Tell stories about your childhood to your children and even your grandchildren, your adventures, your struggles, overcoming fears, and even your mistakes. Why? It can help your children understand that their own experiences are normal. It sends a powerful message that they are not alone and that there's no shame in struggling.
Some parents may be afraid that this will make them look weak, but this kind of vulnerability is actually a strength. You're telling your kids that acknowledging mistakes can be the first step to improving your life. Saying, "I felt this way," gives them permission to open up to you. And if you're struggling to relate to a child during a difficult period of their life, this may actually be a point of connection.
This can be also a great teaching tool, much like a parable or story of a saint. But this time, this is your own real-life story that can teach a lesson. When you share with your children about your own walk with Christ, it's a great story that your children need to hear.
To listen to our podcast and sharing your story, visit us at messyfamilyminute.org.
This is Father Ramil Fajardo. Dear friends, if we understand the power of radio, then we can understand that the gospel can be made very real, very convincing, powerful enough to send shockwaves throughout the whole country and indeed the whole world. Catholic radio is necessary in order that the gospel be sent throughout all the world, and most importantly, a convincing witness of Christ's presence here on earth.
The world needs EWTN Catholic Radio, now more than ever.
Matt Swaim here. Tomorrow on the Sunrise Morning Show, we'll celebrate the feast of St. Bartholomew the Apostle and get you all the latest news, weather, sports, and more. Now back to Women of Grace with Johnnette Williams.
The Women of Grace phone lines are open. 1-833-288-EWTN. 1-833-288-3986.
Well, welcome back, everybody. You are listening to Women of Grace Live on this Wednesday in the Lord. And you know what Wednesday is around these parts. It's Wacky Wednesday. Sue Brinkman is with us. She is the researcher for our New Age blog out there. She does all of the research for us, and excellent research she does. It's available for you. I want to let you know that you're right there on the homepage. You can click on it, or you can go to newage.womenofgrace.com. You can look up any category of thing there, put it in, and into the search engine, and articles regarding that area will crop up there for you. Or you can just simply, at your leisure, read through the blog. It'll take you a long time. There's over 1,600 questions and answers there for you. She also does our podcast on the New Age. That is in the library section of our website. You'll see a tile. It comes up, and you'll see Sue's happy face. And you click on that, and it takes you to the blogs. And again, it's searchable by topic area or subject interest. We have lots of people, tons of people, really, that access this blog. And we know that many people that are in the ministry of deliverance and exorcism access that blog regularly. So we invite you to do it. You'll get to see all of the good information that's there and available for you. Well, Sue, let's get to Francesca. She's been holding a nice long while for us. She is in North Texas, and she is listening to us via Station of the Cross, and that's a lovely thing. Hey, Francesca, how are you?
Hi, ladies. Thank you for taking my call.
You're welcome.
So I wanted to ask something that I just started listening to you also, but in the little time that I've been listening, I know you've discussed the topic of yoga ad nauseum, so I apologize for having to bring it up again. But so what happened is, so I have my mother-in-law. She's Catholic. She's cradle Catholic, grew up going to Mass and everything, but she kind of fell away from the church. But she does yoga, very consistently, and she buys into all of the superstitions and, all that stuff. So I wanted to help her and explain to her why she shouldn't, do it. I don't do it myself. I did a long time ago, and I stopped doing that. But recently, a couple of weeks ago, I was listening to the Catholic Answers Live, and the senior apologist said that, as long as you don't give it a spiritual meaning, you don't believe in, all of the godly messages or the meaning of the postures, you could do it for physical well-being. And that was very conflicting because I was kind of ready to talk to my mother-in-law, and I Googled it, and that answer just popped up on the Catholic Answers website right away. So I know she's going to do the same thing. And so it's it's a little bit confusing because she's going to come back to me and say, well, some people believe that it's okay as long as, you don't believe in all their spiritual meanings, but then, others, they disagree. So I just wanted to find out what, advice you can give to me that I can relate to her to really convince her to stop doing yoga.
Well, Francesca, thank you very, very much for that question. It is a question that comes up frequently. Can we separate? And we're only talking, and then I'm going to turn this right over to you, Sue, but there's very many different types of yoga. And the type of yoga that your mother-in-law is actively engaged in is Hatha yoga. And Hatha yoga uses postures, and those postures, manipulate the body in certain ways, and it helps the, muscles to stretch, etc. That there is truth in that. The question is that what that's really all about? And is Hatha yoga an exercise regime? And the answer to that is no. It is not an exercise regime. It is a spiritual practice of Hinduism. So while it seems as though you can separate the action from the philosophy, the fact of the matter is you cannot separate the action from the philosophy. And at least that is our prevailing opinion. And I always recommend that if people have a question, ask an exorcist what the exorcist thinks about it. Because we have many exorcists that tell us that this is one of the more difficult spirits to exorcise, is the spirit of yoga, and the way in which that spirit comes in is through the practice of it, wittingly or unwittingly. Sue?
Absolutely. That is such good advice, to go and see an exorcist about it. Because yoga, as you said, those poses are positions of worship to Hindu gods, which of course don't exist. But as the fathers of our church teach us, demons hide behind their names. And when you're sitting there in that sun pose, even though you might not think that, hey, I'm not actively calling upon that spirit. Well, what about the guy next to you in class? Maybe that guy is calling upon that spirit. And if you're in the class and you're in that vicinity and you're not in a state of grace, you're open game to any demon that might choose to answer that man who's calling upon the sun god next to you, because he thinks it's a great thing. So you need to be very careful about that. And, we don't here recommend any kind of endorsement of people going to yoga classes for the reasons that Johnnette just stated, but also for the fact that you don't need to go to yoga to get any of the benefits, the physical benefits that yoga provide. There's all kinds of isometric type exercises that you can do that work even better than yoga, as far as strengthening your back, improving your balance. You could do a lot of different things. It doesn't have to be yoga. Why go to something that's got that kind of spiritual baggage in it that if you don't really have to do that? Now, we have a pamphlet that we give out, and you can have the pamphlet. I could send you the PDF of it. You just send me an email to sbrinkman, and that's got 2 N's on the end, at womenofgrace.com, and I will send you the PDF of that pamphlet. And that it addresses all of the more common, I should say, misunderstandings about yoga, and perhaps your mother or mother-in-law, who I can't remember who it is you said was your mother, was engaging in this. That might just get things started in her mind. It might plant a few seeds, just that little pamphlet. So there are 2 different views about yoga. There are many people who believe what Catholic Answers believes, that it's okay if you get involved, that you need to be, or they'll say to themselves, my faith is strong enough. We don't recommend that anybody think that their faith is strong enough, whether it's in a yoga class or not. You need to go to God and not rely on yourself for that. And as Johnnette said, I think the best advice there is to see what the exorcists have to say about it, because they're on the front lines. They're the ones who are dealing with it. And you can go onto our website and read plenty of testimonies from people who have been hurt by yoga.
In all kinds of ways. In all kinds of ways, physically, psychologically, and spiritually. You can go out there and read that. Now, one other thing that I wanted to say, too, is what we have to understand is these are occult religions. Now, it's not Western occultism, it's Eastern occultism. So their worldview is tapping into this universal life force energy, and that is what yoga is meant to do. So just by the practice of it, you are opening yourself up potentially, not necessarily, but potentially to powers and principalities. And I like to liken it to other kinds of Western occult activities. You might say, well, I'm going to, you're at the state fair and there's a psychic. I'm just going to go in there because this is a great deal of fun. I'm just going to go in. It's fun. Or I'm going to play with this Ouija board because it's fun. Well, you might think it's fun. But the fact of the matter is the evil one does not play fair, and he takes that opportunity often enough that we have testimony about that on our website as well, often enough that people get into deep spiritual problem. Now, was that their intention? Was it their intention to get into, the spiritual reality of that, or were they just having fun? Well, they're just having fun didn't protect them from the spiritual reality. And I contend that neither does wanting to use yoga for exercise necessarily protect you from the spiritual reality. And I would even say this. I would say that it's been my experience in talking with people that the more deeply they're engaged in yoga, the stronger they defend it. If they were really about exercise, they would have no problem leaving it for something that was more effective and safer to use even physically. But when they put up a big fuss about it, it's an indication to me that they are basically already engaged in something more than just the exercise of it. Otherwise, you wouldn't. And we've seen people that were yoga instructors, right, Sue, that immediately turned their back on it and were willing to give it up. But we've seen other people who just will maintain and maintain and maintain. And very frequently, it ends up just as you've experienced, not all the time. Frequently, it'll end up, as you've experienced with your mother-in-law, in that they no longer practice their religion. Because you see, there's a false ideology that is incorporated in part of that whole activity that they're engaged in. So,
yes, in fact, I'm working with somebody right now who was on our show. This was maybe a couple years ago now. In fact, she was just at our retreat in Melbourne.
Yes, she was. Lovely woman.
And she's working on a book to say, because she feels it's so important to tell people that this is what happens. And she went through the whole thing to become a yoga instructor. What it did to her faith life, it just really was very, very damaging to her. And her story is just so ordinary. It can happen to anybody, like what happened to her. And she's writing in a book, and I'm trying to help her get that going and get that off the ground. And hopefully you'll hear from her again. But this is something that you're going to want to really help your mother-in-law, and also I would say do that with prayer. Mm-hmm. Ask the Lord to soften up her heart. To let some grace come in. Hopefully, He'll be able to begin to change her mind. And you can, in the meantime, Francesca, just plant some seeds.
Mm-hmm. Right, and we can say, no one knows the state of a soul except God. So we want to say that. But what we often say too, Sue, is if we're not in a state of grace, we're more susceptible.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So,
don't take the
there
chance.
is that. Francesca, thank you for your call. We don't tire talking of this topic. We talk about it a lot. You are right, but we don't tire of it because this is one of the big, big issues that people are facing out there today. And it's one of the big ways, I think, in which people are enticed into things that can be, and notice I keep using the conditionals, can be spiritually dangerous. Let's go to Diane. She is in Texas. Friends, we want to hear from you too. 833-288-EWTN. The Republic is well represented today. Diane is in, I think, the Fredericksburg area. I'm not really sure. She's listening to us via Guadalupe Radio today. Hi, Diane.
Hello.
Hi, what's
How
going
are you?
on? We're good.
I'm
We're very good.
Good, thank you. Real quick, on a side note of what you just spoke about, I wanted to give a shout out to a great, safe, and effective method of exercise that also grows our Catholic faith, and that's called Pietra Fitness. I'm not associated at all, but I've been using them for a long time, and they're wonderful, and they can be a great substitute for those who happen to be engaged in yoga. Okay, so my question is, there is something called Life Wave patches, and so I'm wondering if Sue has heard of these. They claim to be a phototherapy and activate our own stem cells by wearing these patches on a variety of places on the body to reflect the heat and light that comes from our own body and put it back into our bodies to activate our own stem cells to heal whatever may be ailing inside of us. The founder has been producing these for decades. I think they started with one called an energy enhancer and was actually used through military and even Olympic or not Olympic, but maybe collegiate athletes, swimmers, and they've been proven successful. But they've kind of stormed the market, and we see them all over now with a lot of people using them. I've tried them myself. So I was curious if Sue has heard anything about those or had some wisdom to share in regards to this phototherapy through these patches that supposedly activate the stem cells in our own bodies.
Well, thank you, Diane, for your question. Go ahead, Sue.
Now, is that the LifeWave X39 patch? Is that the one you're talking about?
It is.
Yeah, there's some controversy about that particular patch as to whether or not it works. The scientific evidence behind it is weak. But a lot of people, the other side of the issue says, but there's a lot of people who say it works, and that weakness in the scientific evidence is it's all about the different product aspects of it. That's misinformation. And also that the lawsuits, there's been a lot of lawsuits attributed also to this particular LifeWave X39 and the company that's been promoting it. So there's a lot out there. I'm going to look into it a little bit further for you, though, because I haven't gotten any questions about it lately. So I think I'm going to look into it further and see what's going on with it now. I'm looking at some things out here now that are from 2022, so it's pretty current science. So I will look into that and put something on our website. If you just go to newage.womenofgrace.com, that'll take you right to the index for our New Age blog, and that'll be up there probably within the next couple of weeks. I'll do something on LifeWave X39 patch and what the current science is on it. But as of right now, it's controversial. And there's a lot of pros and there's a lot of cons that go with it. The one thing that jumped out at me is that the patch is supposed to be placed on an acupressure point. And the minute you start to get into acupuncture, then you know you've got a problem there, because that's based on meridians, and meridians are supposedly energy channels that don't exist because the energy doesn't exist. There's no such thing as chi. So that right away is a red flag for me. If the minute they start saying that, it's got to be on an acupressure point, which, by the way, even acupuncturists don't agree where those points are in the body. So there's not a whole lot of evidence really behind acupuncture, believe it or not. But anyway, I will look into that a lot further, and I thank you for that question. It was a good one.
Yeah, thank you, Diane. We really do appreciate it. It gives us an opportunity to dig back into some research that might be more current. So watch out for that. And we invite all of you always to go out there to the New Age blog. As Sue shared with you, it's newage.womenofgrace.com, or you can go out to our website, womenofgrace.com, and access it right there on the homepage, too. I want to go, Sue, to Michael P. Out there on YouTube. And here's the question for you. What is one to do when the workplace promotes mindfulness when it's contrary to Catholic teaching?
That's a very good question. Very good question. Now, I don't know what they mean by promoting it. If they are in any way mandating that you have to get involved in that, that violates the Civil Rights Act of 1964. They can't do that. They can't force you to participate in a religious activity as a condition of your employment. That's just something that can't be done. Like, we can't give you legal advice here, but I could say that if they are trying to do something like that and saying, hey, you have to go to this mindfulness retreat, or you're going to be fired, or you're not going to be able to get that promotion you're after, you're going to be harassed in some way, that is against the law, and they can't do that. And you would be able to file a complaint with your Human Resources Department about that, and to just say, hey, I don't want to get involved in that because it's my religion. They are supposed to take steps, all employers, to reasonably accommodate an employee's sincerely held religious practices. And the only reason why they would be exempted from that is if doing so would impose an undue hardship on that employer. So if you were to say to them, hey, I don't want to get involved in mindfulness because it's based in Buddhism, I'm a Catholic, and I don't want to get involved in that, they should be able to say, okay, fine, you don't have to, and it shouldn't have any impact at all on your work, on your employment there. But if it does cross that line, then you need to speak to somebody in HR and discuss that with them, because that is against the law.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's important for us to understand that, because oftentimes we feel pressured, and that pressure sometimes comes not only from the powers that be in an institution or an organization, but it can also come from peer pressure. And we know today that so many New Age practices and things that are really outside of the revealed truth of sacred scripture and the teachings of the church have entered into the workplace, into the medical field especially. As a matter of fact, Sue, this is interesting. I was at a retreat a couple of weeks ago. It was Kitty's retreat up there at Our Lady of Hope in Osaka, Mississippi. And a woman came up to me, and she was telling me that she's a therapist, and that she appreciates our New Age blog because there are so many practices. She says you wouldn't believe how invaded our profession is with these things. And in light of that, it becomes very hard to even express, to clients who would be wanting to know more about how their faith can impact their health, excuse me, their mental well-being. Those things cannot be stated, but all of these New Age practices can be promoted. So you see the dichotomy and the contradiction in that.
Absolutely. They just don't, it's the Catholic point of view. They just don't want the Christians out there. They don't want us in society anymore. That's just really what it is. I'll tell you, the one field that is so infiltrated with it is massage. Massage therapy. It is just infiltrated with the New Age, and I feel so bad about it because people will write to us and say, is there any kind of massage that we can use? And yes, you can use any kind of Swedish deep tissue massage. You can use any kind of sports massage. There's nothing wrong with that. But I tell people that if you ever go into a massage place and the people are actually not touching you, their hands are hovering above your body, that is energy medicine. That is an energy, a massage therapist who is into energy medicine, and what they're doing is trying to manipulate your life force energy. So anytime you were to go into any kind of massage parlor, wanting to get a massage, and they keep their hands above the body and don't actually make contact with the body, right then and there that something's going on. And Reiki is one of them. Therapeutic touch. It's also known as hands of light. And what they're doing in Reiki in particular, they're allowing spirit guides to channel that energy through them and then into the patient. So they're serving as a channel for a spiritual entity. That's what's going on in Reiki. And like you were saying, Johnnette, they allow this in hospitals.
I know.
The Reiki therapists go around and they just tell the patients, would you like a massage? They don't explain what they're doing.
It is.
They don't tell them that. And we had, in fact, that a nurse wrote, in fact, she wrote an article, we have it on our website, about she proposed for the Catholic Hospital Association, whatever. Well, not us, because Reiki is not allowed in our healthcare system. The USCCB issued a statement about that, I think in 2009, that was saying that Reiki is not acceptable in any kind of Catholic healthcare facility. But she wants to have a consent form before any Reiki massage is done on a patient in a hospital.
With full disclosure, I hope.
Exactly.
With full disclosure.
Full disclosure.
Yeah, and I want to say one thing. When it comes to massage, a massage can be very therapeutic and very helpful if it's properly done and it's not involved in all these things. We have to be good consumers of our healthcare. We have to be good consumers of something like a massage. Call the massage operation that you're thinking about and say, and ask them, do you do Reiki? Do you do healing touch? Do you do therapeutic touch? Do you do any of these things? And see what they say. And if they say, oh, yes, all of our masseuses, then you're not going there, And if they say, well, yes, then you say, well, is there anyone there who does not do those things? And if they say no, don't go. Because, honestly, Sue, you and I have chatted about this. If you go in and the masseuse is one who practices these things and you ask them not to do it, especially Reiki, they've been channeling a spirit. I don't think we want them touching our body, so.
I don't even want to be in the same room with them.
Well, there you have it, friends. It's been another wonderful Wacky Wednesday. Sue, I thank you so much for being with us today. We look forward to being back with you again next week, Sue. But, friends, I'm going to be here with you tomorrow. We're inviting you to get out to our website, womenofgrace.com. It is a robust site, all kinds of good things there. God bless you now. Bye-bye.
The most original and exclusive Catholic content is on EWTN Radio.
People who go to church on Sunday live on the